Hello, Mr. Hain, Dr. Hain. I'm very thankful for this friends network we have each other. Our common friend, Kat, she make that connection with you. And I'm very thankful for that. And I'm also very thankful to talk with you and for your time to spend with us with the UFO Disclosure Bulgaria. We have people in Bulgaria who is researching the UFO phenomena and any other paranormal activities in Bulgaria. And now I'm in the United States and I'm blessed to have more connections to talk with more people from all over the world. We have, me and also the people from Bulgaria or the people I knew, they have interest about remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you studied this for many years and practicing that, and also you have online lessons and I believe live lessons, but because of COVID, people from Bulgaria, they're not able to come to US to learn, but probably eventually they can do online by your lessons. So first, can you tell us with simple words what means remote viewing and what we can do when we need to develop that ability, or maybe we already have it?
Yeah, that's very interesting questions. Well, thanks, Ivan, for having me here today. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Ivan Ivan?
You can say Ivan or Ivan, doesn't matter.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you and your group. Just to say about what you just said, the classes, we're not doing the live RV classes at the moment, but we're doing them online. And I'll give information at the end of the talk here, how people can find the link for the next online class. So RV, remote viewing, the idea of perceiving distant information, non-local information accurately that does not come through your physical senses. We're all familiar with our physical senses, sight, sound, and smell, and many other senses that science probably has yet to discover. What RV is, it's the ability to accurately describe information from something that's completely hidden from your physical senses and describe it accurately. And I do believe it's something that's built into all of us. It has survival value. There would be a reason why nature would want us to have a type of precognition to see beyond just the limits of our eyes and ears and nose and so forth. And this information, many people experience it, Ivan, as a type of spontaneous knowledge where they suddenly feel like they know something about a topic in their lives, a person, without knowing how they know it. And they take some sort of action. They'll pick up the phone and call a relative. They'll take a different route to work in the car. They'll just get the feeling they're being watched, and they'll turn around and there is someone or an animal looking at them. We've all had that experience, but we can't explain it.
Yeah.
That is part of what RV is. It's not a separate topic. It has to do with the idea of precognition and the word omniscience, just knowing more than just physically available to you. And I believe we all have this ability, and spontaneously, sometimes we all experience it. RV, remote viewing, what I call resonant viewing, is a type of training to learn to get better at that. We all have it spontaneously, but can we develop it so that we could pick something we wanted to know about, or someone else could pick it for us, and we could also get that type of accurate, spontaneous information, even though we don't quite know how we got that information. We can see by looking later on that it was accurate. So it's a type of training for that precognitive sense that we all already have. Sometimes it's called ESP. Another name would be like telepathy, where we share some information between our minds. Something like that. There's many other names, but it's all sort of from my point of view, the same type of process. It could be called psychic, but these are all, and a type of paranormal phenomena, but these are all labels. They don't tell us what is actually going on. I think that the evidence shows from about 100 years of research all around the world that this ability exists. Up to the present time, experiments are still being done. It shows that this information exists. It's a very weak signal sometimes, not always strong, but it's there. I think the evidence shows that it's there.
So that is not for chosen people, that for everybody can do that.
Yeah, everybody can do it, but some people are very good at it. Obviously, we've all heard of natural psychics or people that, in my country, in the United States, that learned remote viewing when the US government was training people to do it. We also know that in the Soviet Union, there was a program to train psychics, and there were some very famous Russian psychics that worked for their government. So people have done this all over the world, also in China. So this is something that has been developed in the past couple decades. It did come out of the Cold War from the 1960s onward, but it's in the public realm now. And we all have heard about it. And the idea is, yes, everybody can do it. There are some people, just almost like a musical skill, that are virtuosos. They're extraordinarily accurate, perhaps beyond myself or you. But of course, I don't know your ability. But if your ability is kind of like mine, it's average, you can actually get some information. Maybe not like Ingo Swann or Pat Price or others that we've heard about, Joe McMonagle and other viewers, that when they would do it, sometimes it could be very detailed and very accurate, describing a geographical location. I mean, almost so accurate, you wonder, how could they do it? But everybody has a degree to some extent or another.
So in the end of that interview, you're going to give us some links maybe for this
Sure.
online trainings.
Yeah.
But before that, I know that you did some research about the crop circles.
Yeah.
So you've been in England
Yes.
physically?
Yeah, one of the targets I did when I learned remote viewing back in 1996, the instructor gave us a picture of a crop circle as a target. Now, these targets are hidden in a manila folder. You're not shown ahead of time what you're looking at.
Okay.
It can be blind or double blind so that nobody knows the target. In this case, the monitor knew it, but it's put in a folder, put 20 feet away from you. You're asked to describe the contents of the folder. You will be shown the contents at the end of your session, but before then you have to get it from your subtle senses. And one of those targets was a crop circle, and I got interested in what are crop circles, and I just got curious from doing my RV session. And so I decided to go there in 1997 for the first time on a tour of crop circles. And that's when I was introduced to the topic, and I did see that there were, unexplained phenomena in and around crop circles, electromagnetic phenomena, balls of light, strange effects on our cameras and batteries.
But they have figures.
Yeah, the beautiful shapes in the wheat that sometimes can be very complex. And something about those shapes was affecting our batteries and cameras. I've seen it almost every year that I've been to the UK, where most of the crop circles have appeared. People's cameras stop working, they get blurry. Their watches stop working. Their laptops, computers stop working. Even very expensive cameras. One of the film crews from the National Geographic told me that their camera stopped working. A very expensive professional video camera. Completely stopped working. They had to reboot from zero. So I've seen this myself, and I've heard the tale. So there's something about the shapes that generate energy, change the way energy is used in that space when you approach it with your devices. And it's a very interesting phenomena for that reason for me.
Do you think that maybe that figures is kind of messages to us?
I'm not sure about messages. It could be a type of communication. The early circles were more mysterious in their origin than later years when people got involved. But they have been showing up for 100 years, at least. And there's books going back to the history of these patterns in the wheat. And there are references to them even in the Bible about strange markings in the field and so forth. I don't know exactly if they're a message. They could be, because sometimes they're very geometrically shaped, and they have been associated with UFOs. I have interviewed witnesses who saw UFOs, well, flying discs here in the US, leave behind very flattened areas of vegetation. And there's other researchers who've seen these patterns near where UFOs have been. The Tully saucer nest in Australia in the late 60s and early 70s had these saucer nests. You see a flying disc, whatever they are, and somehow they get close to the ground, it leaves markings, circular patterns in the vegetation. So that is a real phenomena. Whether it's always deliberate, truthfully, in more recent years, people did start making them in the 80s and 90s in the UK, and they made them very well. They got better at it. They got better at it. But even their formations, even when we didn't know who was doing it, their formations would affect our cameras and batteries. So my angle on it is not as much the origin, which I don't personally have a lot of information about, more the effect of the geometry, sort of like this pattern behind me on the screen. There's something about a very precise geometric pattern that has electromagnetic, perhaps even quantum effects on energy in that space.
Okay. With your abilities, have you had some experience to know where in the sky, not right now, but eventually, where is locating some unknown aerial phenomena or UFO?
It's a very popular topic right now. There's been a release of information from the US government to the United States about objects that have been seen by the Navy pilots. And
yeah, I know that, but with your mind, with your ability, are you able to know where, not right now, but like, for example, which area of the sky right now there's a UFO?
I have never. That's an interesting idea. I haven't done that exactly, but I have done something similar with Dr. Stephen Greer of the CSETI program.
Wow.
And he called it, just because you're mentioning it, RV squared. Not just remote viewing, but remote vectoring. Vectoring meaning bringing in something into your area, like you vector in an object. Yes. And he called it RV squared. And I did this with him at a UFO conference in Laramie, Wyoming once.
Okay.
80 people, and we did a meditation where we intended to communicate with some extraterrestrial craft. And in our mind, just to imagine that we could contact the pilots of those craft and bring them over our area at a certain time later in the day. And we all went out to the field later that day. And an object showed up that was very hard to describe for me. Blue changed to very bright, beam of light came down from it, no sound. It was like a classic UFO. And so that's an example where we used a protocol to intend it to come down, not just to predict, but to create a connection where there's a transfer of information with some other species, perhaps. And in that case, something did happen. Something happened.
Yeah, there's many people doing this C5. Rama group first, I believe, from South America, from Peru. I knew personally Sixto Paz, Ricardo Gonzalez. And then Dr. Stephen Greer developed something similar, like that protocols from South America. Now, Costa Macris from California, he doing C5 by a different way, and many other people. Do you have your one way or your own protocols to make C5?
Well, there's probably many ways to do it. The way I learned from Dr. Greer I mean, and he's a controversial character. There's no doubt about it. Some people argue that he's sort of making this up, but I was there. I saw the craft. And people said maybe he faked it or something. There's no way. It was up in the sky,
Yeah.
big and bright. There is no way you could have hoaxed that unless you had a lot of money and a whole nother group somewhere out there sending, and it's not possible in my view. It really happened.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. All I can say is I experienced it, and I was skeptical that when we went out, we would see something, but we did. And so there are different protocols. I am sure any method that creates a natural resonance that another organism or species would be able to resonate with, like a radio transceiver, you could get some communication, like you're mentioning with crop circles. You could get some sort of spontaneous communication. It makes sense. And there's different ways to do that. The RV squared is one protocol, but anything that uses your imagination to imagine that contact and to feel okay. You know, the main thing, Yvonne, is to feel okay with it. There's a lot of fear around meeting another species that you've never encountered before or no one ever told you about. What do you do when they really show up? What happens next? And if that's another issue people need to deal with, is they actually want to have it happen, not really want to have it happen, but run away when a craft shows up. Because even myself with a lot of training, when that thing showed up in Laramie, I felt shocked. I will be honest. I felt shocked.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. It just was an unknown up there with a bright light coming down on me. And that is weird. If you've never had it happen, everyone says they want this to happen, but when it happens to you, you don't know how you're going to react. You don't know how you're going to react. It's
Probably,
very different.
I don't know, but I think that will be okay.
We probably will, but you don't know for certain. At the moment that it happens, it feels really, it's like a movie that's really happening and you're in the middle of it and something there from the unknown just showed up a mile from you.
Yeah.
And is very bright. And that can feel shocking. It did to me. It took me a couple days to get over that. I will be honest. We can talk about it all you want here and with other people, but when it's there in front of you and you're out in the field and there's no one else there but you and your group, anything could happen.
I can imagine. I mean, this is from another world.
Yeah.
We don't know it. Okay. Lately, maybe the last 5-10 years, people all over the world start talking about the crystal children or children in the indigo, kind of like this.
Yeah.
You're talking about new crystal mind. Is there any connection between crystal mind and this children who is coming in these days, very smart, very intelligent, with much more extraordinary abilities?
Yeah, there is a connection because I think that we're evolving to be, active members in our universe. For so long, we've just thought about the Earth and the other societies on Earth that we interact with, the animals and the other people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But what about when we consider meeting people from other planets or other dimensions, other galaxies? It's certainly something you need to consider the possibility of. And that leads to a type of evolution of our whole being, of how we feel connected to our universe. And I think what's referred to as the indigo children, it's like kids do seem to be evolving and getting smarter and more sophisticated. And there could be a variety of reasons for that. It could be sort of a natural evolution of our species. It could be part of a hybridization program of extraterrestrials interacting with us, perhaps genetically, to modify us over the long term. From their point of view, we could seem sort of like apes in the forest seem to us. And they may say, look, those people down there have a potential and they can see in 1,000 years, they might be worth dealing with. So why don't we help them evolve in some way, and maybe they'll be worth interacting with. That's how they may see us. I'm just speculating here. This is speculation, but this could be why you look at kids and they do seem, they seem more evolved in some ways than we do. They seem to have more abilities. They seem to have different interests. And I wonder to myself sometimes, is that just cultural? They grew up in a different time than I did. Could be. Or is there something else in the universe at work interacting with us? We've had these reports of people being taken on ships, experiments, genetic sampling, many different types of stories around that theme. And we can't rule out the idea that another species is studying us or modifying us. The truth is, I don't know. You don't know. Perhaps someone in the government knows about this and they don't want to talk about it because it's really too much for the public. But something seems to be going on. I don't think you'd have this many stories and sometimes physical evidence left behind, scars and things in people. I've interviewed people on my own YouTube channel that have been taken aboard these craft. Terry Lovelace from the Air Force.
You have a book about this.
That's right. One of them was Opening Minds.
Yeah.
Is one book that I wrote about this sort of general topics. We're talking about RV and crop circles and resonance. And the more recent one is Black Swan Ghosts.
Yes, I'm talking about exactly for that book.
Oh, sorry, is a sample copy. That's why you see this band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Black Swan Ghosts is, I met so many of these witnesses after a while. I thought the stories, there's some commonality between the stories, and there's a lot of good witnesses out there. And I began to wonder how much of our own history hasn't been told yet. We always assume, Yvonne, that we know what's going on, but maybe we don't know our own history. Maybe there's something else that's been left out, and maybe nobody even knows it, because these stories that people have told me, when I talk to other witnesses in a whole different part of the world, and they tell me a similar type of story, the details are so similar, and they're not getting it from my book. They had this experience. I just interviewed one yesterday, which I'll be releasing soon, Julie and her husband. And what she described, seeing as a kid, about this craft coming over her town and the beings waving from her, that was very common in the 1970s. Why? All over the world. They would come over and these beings in a tight suit would wave and no one else would see it. Or maybe just some people would see it and others wouldn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it made the news the next day. Well, who is in those low-flying ships waving from hovering craft? It doesn't make logical sense, but that's the data. And our job, in my view, Yvonne, is not to just reinforce the consensus reality that we're told by society. It's to listen to our friends and our colleagues and our people we talk to and take them seriously and say, what is going on? If I didn't learn about this in school, why am I hearing about, in Black Swan Ghosts, I got to interview so many people over the years who never told their story to anybody else.
Yeah.
Really good, credible people, down to earth people who you would never doubt for a second if they told you anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder, what did they experience driving on the road and the car stalls and they lose time, walking along the hills at night and seeing something land nearby and someone get out? And what is this?
I'm dreaming for this for many years because I travel all over the United States, even nighttime. Never UFO show up in my road.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
It does show up to some people,
Yeah.
and it doesn't show up sometimes to everybody, or sometimes people forget about it.
Yeah.
But it's like a hidden history, I call it, Yvonne, a hidden history, a secret history.
Yeah.
Other UFO researchers have picked up on this theme. I think one researcher, what did he call it? The Secret School. Who wrote that book? I can't remember at the moment. Was it Jacques Vallée or, there's some interaction going on here even in people in the government have experienced it. They don't want to talk about it. I'll tell you one thing I've learned, Ivan. Many people, not like you, but many people are afraid to talk about their contact because they feel it'll jeopardize their job. Even after retirement, they feel they could lose their retirement benefits.
Especially if they're in the government job.
Yes, if they've been in the government. So some of the best stories we haven't heard publicly, because the people feel like their credibility will be damaged by talking about it. So by my estimate, we've only heard from about 5% of witnesses so far, something like that. There are many others that just don't want to, they prefer to forget about it. They don't tell anybody. Either they were told by their employer, the government, military, don't talk about it, never happened, and they don't even tell their wife or spouse. Or they just felt like, that was so scary, I don't even want to think about it again. But they finally, some of these people have told me their stories, and I wonder every day what sort of universe we're living in, what sort of multiverse that these interactions happen, and it doesn't make the news for the most part.
Yeah. Do you think in the close future, eventually the star friends will show up to us?
The star fleets?
Star friends.
Star friends.
I mean, there are people from the stars.
If extraterrestrials really do exist, if these are beings from other planets, I think that would eventually happen. It doesn't seem to me implausible that if you were visiting another planet, you might not want to interfere too much in their development before they're ready.
But that will cause chaos in the planet.
Exactly. So maybe they chose to remain in the shadows for the most part, because we could be like children to them and they don't want us to flip out.
Yeah.
And maybe we're not ready yet. I mean, we sometimes as a planet, we're very violent, unpredictable, very emotional. They may find us hard to deal with, especially our governments don't even get along with each other. So who do they approach? If they go to one country, they give an advantage to that country and disadvantage the others. It's a very complex question. But will they show up? Well, it seems like they have been showing up here and there to people. Sometimes you get mass sightings, like where I grew up in the Hudson Valley in New York. In Illinois, there were sightings of a big black triangle in the early 2000s. A lot of police saw it near that Air Force base. So there are these sightings occasionally. You know, it's a good question, Ivan. We're going to have to wait to see how this all plays out, but there's a lot of possible scenarios here. That wouldn't surprise me.
Sunshine light in your face, or what is it?
Yeah, let me lower this sunshine.
I said, what is that phenomenon kind of? He start writing.
It's sunshine.
Okay. Do you have any prediction for the close future? Something cool to happening? Because I got calls from friends from Bulgaria, from England. They said you can expect something very cool and unusual around Christmas.
I don't know about that specific prediction, but I'm not surprised by anything these days. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll tell you why. You know, we have this virus pandemic right now, and it's a lot of people and countries are shocked by the danger. And that's very unusual.
Yeah, it is.
When you're in those situations, it opens up the possibility for unexpected events to happen. Positive events too. We've had a very negative event with the virus so far. But nature is built around symmetry. And if it's moved in a negative direction, the next movement will be in a positive direction, because this seems to be, to me, how the physics of the universe works. There's a kind of symmetry to it. And so I believe that the negativity of the pandemic will be balanced out by other events that right now are unexpected. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future we have unexpected events that we didn't see coming that are not directly related to the virus. They have to do with our worldview changing. We can see now that we're vulnerable. in a
You
way
feel
we
like
didn't expect.
spiritual growing up.
Yeah, it all goes hand in hand. I mean, if you have events happen that show us that nature is different than we thought it was,
Hmm.
that can lead people to reevaluate their spiritual beliefs, their religious beliefs. You know, the way that the universe works, we don't totally understand that. We act every day as if we know everything, but history shows us there's always more to learn. There was a time 100 years ago in the United States where I forgot who suggested it. The head of the patent office suggested closing the patent office because he said everything that had been invented and you didn't need there were going to be no more new patents.
Yeah.
Like the 1890s. Can you imagine someone in the 1890s thinking, everything that could be invented already exists? There will be no, and look how much we've changed since my father was born in 1921, I believe. Yeah, let's see. He was born 19, yeah. So just in his time period, they had refrigeration was new, radio was invented, and that's since 1920. And look what we have now, all this technology. So it's the same with the way the universe works and our own knowledge. We don't have complete knowledge.
Mhm.
So there's always room for new developments, and that affects us in many ways.
Okay, we're almost to the end of this interview,
Sure.
but now, I mean, I'm going to share your links for your online classes.
Oh, please do.
Or maybe you can say something like final words.
Yeah, if people, I'm going to write it down right here.
Okay.
If people want to learn more about my online classes or just try a free class, learnrv.org.
Okay.
Learnrv.org. And thank you for signing up earlier today for one of the classes.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. Because I tried 3 or 4 times. Did I pay 3 times or only 1 time?
Oh, don't worry about it. I'll refund if you did it more than once. You did it 3 or 4 times. I'll refund it in the payment system. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you for signing up. I do have free mini classes. You can just try it for yourself, no cost. You can sign up for a self-paced online class like you did, Yvonne. Or in January, I have a live weekend class coming up. That is during the day. It might be challenging for people in another country because it would go into later at night. But I have a live class coming up January 9th and 10th. And it's fun to learn RV. I've learned a lot from it. And almost everyone who's taken the class, just about 99 out of 100 people felt like, told me it really helped them to expand their senses. In ways that, you don't even know you have. Mm-hmm. So.
Final words to the world?
Well, I think we can expect a lot of interesting information to be coming forward over the next few years. It has been building up like water behind a dam, from my point of view, someone who's been researching this for almost 25 years. There's many witnesses to come forward, a lot of information to come forward about UFOs and many other subjects. And I think it's going to be a very interesting time for all of us. So stay tuned and keep your eyes open.
Thank you very much to have you.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.